is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers were on the field earlier today for a joint practice with the Arizona Cardinals. It was an up-and-down day for Jordan Love. Hit on a 45-yard touchdown to Matthew Golden. Should have had another long one to Bo Melton, but he couldn't hold on. Love also threw a couple picks. Probably should have had another. There were also a couple of near fights due to some late hits, but nothing big. While many eyes were on Love, GM Brian Gutekunst and his staff are using today and going to use Friday's preseason game to help determine the final few roster spots.
Yeah, that certainly could sway things. It doesn't erase the things that have happened in the past, but you try to be careful of recency bias, right? You're always fighting against some of that as well. At the end of the day, you're just trying to make the best decision for the Packers, for the season and moving forward. But it'll matter.
Again, the Packers and Cardinals in preseason action on Friday night in the final dress rehearsal before the real thing next month. Turn into Wisconsin. They are closing in on their season opener at September 6th at Lambeau Field against number 4 Notre Dame. It's the first time Wisconsin's faced another Power 4 team in their opener since 2016.
Everyone should feel confident about their path forward. Exact Sciences helps eradicate cancer by preventing it, detecting it earlier, and guiding personalized treatment. They continue to help patients and healthcare providers make timely, informed decisions before, during, and after a cancer diagnosis by partnering with the industry's best minds and top institutions to transform how to approach cancer. Known for Cologuard and Oncotype DX, allow Exact Sciences to help make a positive impact in your health path forward. Learn more at exactsciences.com.
Well, the Brewers and Mets continuing their series out in New York. Milwaukee dropped the opener last night, 3-2 in extra innings. It left their lead in the NL Central at 5.5 games on the Cubs with 30 to play. That includes 7 against Chicago over the final few weeks of the season. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Pratt, pop-up, shallow right, long run, and it's going to fall, and it gets by Benj, but Cooper Pratt puts on the brakes. It's a bloop single into the Bermuda Triangle behind first base. Looks like we're going to get a pinch runner for Pratt. David Hamilton is coming in to run. Pratt looked very confused about this move in the 5th inning.
And I wonder if Pat Murphy was upset with him not taking the extra base.
Vinny, I think you're absolutely right.
Some of the guys pulled me aside and just let me know, like, hey, this is how we do it here. And I know that, and I just, that it won't happen again.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Some play-by-play audio from last night's Brewer game, and then Cooper Pratt in the clubhouse. Poor guy. Just sounds like a hung dog. Poor guy. That's where we'll start tonight. The benching of Cooper Pratt, who, if I had to guess, is a player that 65, 70, 75% of baseball fans have never heard of. If you drove around the country and yelled out a bus window to people, hey, do you know who Cooper Pratt is? I would guess a majority of baseball fans don't. And yet, the number one story, a pretty juicy talking point today on MLB Network and some of the other sports shows I saw, everyone's breaking down and discussing the benching of Cooper Pratt. Never has a less consequential and lesser known player been such a big story. It's a juicy topic for Sports Talk Radio and Sports Talk TV. So I guess that's a blessing from last night. I wish the Brewers would have won. Make it a little bit more fun to talk about today. But no such luck. The Brewers losing in New York last night. You heard in Zach's update kind of the lay of the land. The Cubs got walked off, so doesn't end up hurting the Brewers. I believe they're leading the division still 5.5 games. I went to bed before the end of the Cubs game, and I woke up and went, nice little surprise to start the day at 6 o'clock this morning. Yeah, I was up at 6 o'clock. Didn't have to share that, but just makes me sound like a go-getter. So why leave it out of the show open? It's the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Thank you for being here. Mike Clemens going to be here in 15 minutes with an update from Green Bay. So a lot of Brewers talk tonight. Jesse Temple will also be here. It's Wednesday at 5:30. So lots of Brewers. Lots of Badgers. We're going to hear a little bit from Brian Gutekunst, a couple of talking points he shared today in his presser with the Green Bay media. But I want to talk a lot about the Brewers. I feel bad because we're going to lead with the Brewers, and I won't immediately give you an in on the phones, but you will have time over the course of the show. 608-321-1670, and the live stream is up and running on the Wisco Sports Zone app and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter at Wisco Grant. Lots of ways to watch and listen. It's not the only part of last night's game worth talking about. In fact, I don't even know that Murphy's decision to bench Cooper Pratt was all that consequential in the result. And I know that David Hamilton replaced him and he boots the ball at the end that ends up costing them the game. But I don't think the benching of Cooper Pratt is even the most important baseball story from last night, but it's certainly the most interesting for sports talk radio. So that's where I want to begin. Bloops of a little floater to the Bermuda Triangle, which is exactly what it was. That's what Levering, that's how Levering described it in that highlight you heard. Falls in. Pat Murphy seemed to think it could have or should have been a double. In fact, I don't want to ascribe anything to Pat Murphy because in the 3 minutes he spent with the media after the game last night in the clubhouse, he outlined his thinking perfectly. So before we talk about this, I want to hear from Pat Murphy directly just so we have a good idea of where his head's at.
What led you to remove Pratt there in the fifth?
He's a young player, and, we asked him to get a bunt down, and he pulled back on a strike. That happens maybe with one strike. We're trying to get the guy second and third for Churio in a game where we weren't swinging it too good to that point. So we get first and second. We ask him to bunt, and he got it. The first one was a good attempt. The second one, he pulled back, strike right down the middle. Later, he popped the ball. The next at bat, he popped the ball up to right field and didn't run, and the ball landed and stopped. Now, he would have easily got to second base. What could have happened after that, I'm not sure, but you can't have a guy not understanding that. And I felt like after the first at bat, when he didn't, attempted a bunt with a ball right down the middle, and second at bat, the pop up that landed fair and he wasn't at second base. It's time to let him know that, and it's not laziness. I know who this kid is. He's a great kid. It's not laziness, but you got to have your head in the game, because these games like today comes down to Lindor's great catch or, whatever it might be, an errant throw or whatever. So you've got to be locked in if you're going to play at this level. So, so it was hopefully a good learning experience.
So first little question and answer there from Murph. He said would have easily got to second base, which I just think is categorically false. But I'm not surprised that he references the at-bat earlier where Pratt was unable to get the bunt down, because I could just kind of sense during the game, it's like, I don't think Pratt's just being benched for the base running thing. I think it was probably due to his at-bat earlier when he was unable to get the bunt down. So I'm glad that Murph outlined that. And he said, I don't think the player's lazy. I think he's, hardworking player, just sending a message, got to be focused, blah, 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 which is all fine. So we all understand where Murph's coming from through a minute and 39 seconds there. Okay.
Did it look like the swing, awkwardness of the fall through the swing slowed him down out of the box?
I haven't watched it.
So Kurt asks, if you couldn't hear it, do you think the awkwardness of the swing, it was kind of a jam job, do you think that maybe impeded his ability to get out of the box? And then Murph goes, I don't know, I haven't watched it. And I kind of laugh at that. It's like, Murph, I think if you watched it, you'd maybe draw a slightly different conclusion than the conclusion that you've presented so far. So that makes me laugh a little bit. Let's continue.
Make those types of moves. Is it intended for the player, or is it also intended for the team?
I mean, yeah, it's the player and the team. I love the kid, and I believe in the kid immensely, but he's got to be a player that does those things. He's not going to hit 30 homers at this point in his career. He's a great defender and a really capable offensive player, and we can't have that. It's just not tolerated by anybody, and it sends a message to everybody else too. You better run.
Where is that line on just knowing when that the time is to do that?
Yeah, I guess, I guess you have to use your judgment on things and listen and have the pulse of your team a little bit. And again, it's something you do, and it didn't affect the outcome of the game today. Hamilton gave us good at bats, and defensively, that last play he just got hurried and threw the ball away.
Do you think Joey?
So I want to my first inclination was to rip Murphy for that answer. Well, you can't even describe your process on when you're going to bench a guy. But actually, more than I think about it, like, that's okay. Like, having a feel and reacting situation by situation. I wish we had more of that in sports. So when I first heard Murph kind of unable to describe a situation or a line that he has for benching a guy, I wanted to crush him. It's like, you can't even define it. But actually, I'm okay with that. Actually, I actually think that's fine. Back at it here, Kurt Hogue with the next question.
Do you think Joey makes that play?
You can always speculate that stuff.
Yes,
yes,
he does.
You can make it.
Joey Ortiz makes that throw.
You can make it out that taking out Pratt was the difference, and then again, that you took out anybody in the game and you didn't win. You could arguably say Hamilton covers as much ground as anybody, and
that wasn't the problem, though.
He's been great for us.
Great is a little bit of a reach for me. God bless Kurt. I love Kurt so much. Hey, do you think Joey makes that play? And Murph's response is, well, you could pull anyone, and you could look at that. It's like, but you didn't pull but you pulled this guy. We're talking about this guy, right? So it's kind of a funny exchange.
There are a lot of at-bats in there that were the difference. That ninth inning, extra innings. What did you just think of the situational hitting of guys?
Well, I mean, obviously, Yelich's situational hitting. Well, Contreras to lead off with a double. Bauer's at bat, Yelich's at bat. That's 3 great at bats in a row. And then Lauer and Mitchell, those weren't great at bats.
No,
Ortiz was a great at bat. Hamilton was a great at bat. So when you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 7 really good at bats, usually you score more than 1.
Usually. And part of that is luck. That is baseball, right? Sequencing. It's not just, can you get 5 hits? It's in what order are those hits taking place? Where are the hits dispersing? To what fielders? To what part of the ballpark? All that stuff. So that's Pat Murphy last night, just so we fully understand his line of thinking before we start to pick it apart. Of all the different facets of managing, this type of thing is definitely Pat Murphy's wheelhouse. This is what he's best at. And I don't even think that's arguable. If you were to list all of the things that go into managing a baseball team, I think most people would say clubhouse, setting standards, setting culture, like that's Pat Murphy's thing. And this falls into that. So if he felt like he needed to send a message, good, send one. I defer to Pat Murphy here. I give him the benefit of the doubt at this thing. I could pick apart reliever usage or, lots of different things where I don't think Pat Murphy is exceptional. I think he's fine in a lot of things. I think he's weak in some other areas. Every coach is like that. But I think Pat Murphy definitively is excellent at these types of things. So if he felt like he needed to send a message, go ahead, send one. I think the vehicle for that message was a little clunky and misplaced, but maybe that's secondary. I needed to send a message. I found a way to send a message, whatever. I don't think Pratt dogged it out of the box. Brewers fans, I heard a lot of people on Bill's show today, and I see him on Twitter. Good, you got to send Pratt a message. Guys, were you watching? Like, he wasn't dogging it out of the box. He was off balance because of an awkward swing. He didn't see the ball. He's running. He was moving pretty quick. Yeah, he wasn't in a dead sprint, but he wasn't dogging it. And even if he had been in a dead sprint, I don't think he's at second base. I think Carson Bench has an outstanding throwing arm. I think he's out pretty easily. And I think if Pat Murphy rewatches it, I think he would draw a similar conclusion. I understand if Pat Murphy's not happy with the at-bat when Pratt wasn't able to get the bunt down in the 3rd inning. But then if you're really unhappy with him and his at-bats, sit him for a night or two. That's what we've seen him do in the past when Cooper Pratt has been out of the lineup for 2 days, or last year Joey Ortiz would be out of the lineup for a day or two, and the reporters would ask, what's going on? Haven't been happy with his at-bats. So a little bit of a message. He's got to lock back in a little bit and start giving us good at-bats. I haven't been happy with his at-bats. Fine. I don't know that necessitates pulling him in the middle of a game. And also, if we're nitpicking situational hitting, can we remove the plank in our own eye before looking for the speck in our brothers? A little bit of a biblical reference. Like if we're gonna nitpick Cooper Pratt's bunting ability, can we look at Jackson Chury 0 for 5? This is the second time, by the way, in 2 weeks, the Brewers have lost in extra innings where Jackson Churrio's gone 0 for 5. And I can't remember if in that Padres game, did he go 0 for 5 and then got intentionally walked, or did he go 0 for 5 and then get intentionally walked? I can't remember. This is the second time the Brewers have lost in extra innings in the last 2 weeks where Jackson Churrio is just abysmal, just awful. Bryce Terang was 0 for 5. I don't think as highly of Bryce Terang as I do Jackson Churrio, so my standard's a little bit lower. But 0 for 10 between Churrio and Terang and some miserable at-bats mixed in there is bleh. So if we're gonna nitpick Cooper Pratt's ability to get a bunt down, which I like, it's hard to get a bunt down. It's not something that he's probably been asked to do a lot in his career. So yeah, he's got to get better, but does that change the reality in that moment? Is he supposed to be able to get a bunt down and to be cocksure in that moment just because we need him to, because we want him to? You wish in one hand, crap in the other. Like, yeah, he might turn into a guy who's a good bunter. He's obviously not that right now. So we can get mad about that. But then we look at Jackson Churrio, Luis Lara. I would consider optioning him back to AAA, if not for just a week or 10 days. Because Luis Lara's thing on top of elite defense, which he's provided, but they're not wanting for defense in the outfield. Garrett Mitchell is a plus defender. Sal Frelick is a very good defender too. His thing is supposed to be strike zone discipline and contact. And when he's gone sideways, he's lost the feel for the strike zone and lost his ability to make contact. So if he's not doing those things, and Sal Frelick, if Sal Frelick's healthy, he's in the lineup tonight. I would have liked Sal Frelick to hit for Garrett Mitchell in the ninth last night because I want someone I can trust to make contact with runners at second and third and less than 2 outs. Garrett Mitchell's not that guy. If Sal's healthy, play him. And I'd actually consider optioning Luis Lara. I'm not kicking and screaming about that. It's just something that I'd consider. That Garrett Mitchell at bat, the frustrating thing about that Garrett Mitchell at bat is Jeffrey Yan threw him a beach ball. Oh, the third pitch of that at bat, you can't that's in his wheelhouse's wheelhouse. Little bit tight inside of the strike zone at 85. That ball, I don't know which direction the Mets stadium is facing. That ball should be in the Hudson River today. That ball should be out of the ballpark, and he fouled it back. And if you were watching on the broadcast, Levering knew it. Levering absolutely, you could hear it in his voice. He's like, yep. And that was the pitch, and he knows it. Everybody knows it. 85 right there on the inside half of the zone, and he spoiled it. So Garrett Mitchell with a bad at bat, Luis Lara with a bad at bat. But again, I think Jackson Churrio is, I don't want to say, enemy number one, but probably the person I'm most frustrated with after last night. Because in the context of Cooper Pratt's at-bat quality, Pat Murphy was asked about Jackson Churrio last night. I'll read from Kurt's story today. As far as a difficult night for a different 22-year-old from the Brewers went, Murphy took a different tone. When asked if there was frustration over Jackson Churrio's strikeout in the top of the 10th, in which he swung and missed at 3 pitches out of the zone to cap an 0 for 5 showing, Murphy was ready to turn the page. Quote, "You've got to understand that these guys are 130 games in. Jackson's 22 years old. His standards are very high for himself. He didn't have a great night offensively, but he's had so many great ones. That's going to happen. You're not all of a sudden going to ask Jackson to bunt in that situation. The kid pitched him tough. He left the zone a little bit. I'm sure he's frustrated." Oh, so okay, all right. Okay. I'm not asking Jackson Churrio to be benched. I'm just wondering why we're flipping out at Cooper Pratt for at-bat quality when another 22-year-old who's supposed to be much better and a much better offensive player at this moment in time, that guy's just up there without a clue. Frustrating loss. Ultimately doesn't end up hurting the Brewers. Certainly the decision to bench Cooper Pratt is very juicy and interesting. We can feel differently about it and pick it apart. It's a great topic for sports radio. So we will get into that as the show continues. But I'm not sorry. Mike Clemens is excellent. He's going to join us next with an update from Green Bay. He's presented to us by the Bay Motel in Green Bay. Make your reservations, baymotelgreenbay.com. What he saw at practice today, I saw Jordan Love started hot, and then in the team period, it looked like the Cardinals beat the Packers like a drum both ways. So we'll talk about that with Mike Clemens next and get to your phone calls at around 4:35.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
All right, Wisco Sports Show. Plenty of time for your phone calls. A couple comments from Brian Gutekunst earlier today that I want to get to. We're obviously going to continue to pick at this Cooper Pratt thing. So it's a topic that's just built for sports talk radio. There were a bunch of segments I saw on MLB Network today across their shows done on it. And it's funny to me because Cooper Pratt is a name that I would bet 60% of baseball fans, 70% of baseball fans around the country don't know. He's like the number one story today. Poor Cooper Pratt. So we'll get back to that, and I want to take your phone calls on that. Mike Clemens is up in Green Bay. We're lucky to have him, thanks to the Bay Motel in Green Bay, to keep us updated what's going on at practice. And Mike, also lucky to have you contributing both on Bill's show and my show over the last 48 hours, because I think you're the only guest and contributor to the show that I can discuss Dolly Parton and Porter Wagoner with. I think you're about the only one. Maybe Bill Huber. I don't know. Maybe there's another classic country fan in there, but you're just about the only one, I think.
No. Hey, Cameron Crowe, the director, right?
Yep.
Who, as a kid, like that movie he made about himself, he was touring around as a 16-year-old and writing stories for Rolling Stone.
Almost Famous, yeah.
Yeah. You've got interviews with Dolly, and she's asked, okay, so Elvis wanted to do I'll Always Love You when she first wrote it. And Colonel Tom Parker called her and said, well, listen, young lady, Elvis is interested in your song. But, of course, we only record songs that we owe at least 50% of the publishing for. And this 25-year-old, kid from Tennessee says, no thanks, Colonel Parker. We're going to pass because I'm not selling my song at all, which was financially brilliant.
Yeah.
But that was so the question she was asked, did you ever meet Elvis? She goes, no, that was it. I would have loved to, but he passed in the following year. So you got Cameron Crowe saying, I covered a concert where Dolly opened for Elvis.
Interesting.
So how does Dolly not remember opening for Elvis But Cameron Crowe at 16 years old says, no, she was the opening act, and then Elvis came on later.
Well,
So,
maybe they never met. Maybe it's like a Howard Stern thing. He had his own, special entrance in the back.
It
You know
could
how Bill is. You're not
Sure.
allowed to approach or make eye contact with Bill outside
know.
of show hours. These entertainment types, these big time divas.
It's just in all the interviews, all the times that Dolly Parton was asked, did you ever meet Elvis?
Yeah.
She did not submit. I opened for him once, but I never got to see him backstage.
Interesting.
So, what did you want to talk about today? Because I'll tell you what, at the end, the visitors won. The visitors were jumping up and down and yelling and taking control, and the alpha dogs out there, and the Packers kind of looked tanked and tired, and went back to the locker room, shaking their heads a little bit.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about, because all the tweets I saw from the reporters up there today was both Arizona's offense and defense had their way with the Packers, had the juice, were celebrating on their practice field. And so I would love for you to expand on that, but also, like, what do you think that means, if anything? Maybe that doesn't mean anything. Maybe it's just a practice. Who cares? Doesn't matter.
So the feel was, and it was the same format protocols that they've done under Matt LaFleur with other visiting teams. The visiting team, the Cardinals today, they were out in the Hinkle Field, which is right on Oneida, right across the street from the stadium, which is where the Packers usually have their practices in season. And the Packers did their warm-ups inside the Hudson Center and back on the Nitschke Field, where the stands are for training camp and for the public to watch. Today was the last practice, by the way, that was open to the public. So the Cardinals come out, and then the Packers come out, and the Packer fans are going nuts, and they sort of had the momentum. And then Jordan Love lines up, and I think the Cardinals defense is like, gulp. I mean, this is the first real quarterback we've faced here.
Sure.
With Jacoby Brissett every day, Gardner Minshew. Come on, man. It was Carson Beck, I think is the other. So there's Jordan Love, and they backed up, and they were getting burned. And Matthew Golden, cut across the middle, put his hand up, boom, 45 yards. So they were slinging it around. But then as the practice goes on, I don't know if it would changed in the play calling. I don't know if something changed in terms of what they were running on offensive line. But the Packers got bogged down. There were some whistles. Then there was some trash talk after whistles. And you can see the Cardinals were there to bait those guys. I was talking to Marshawn Lloyd. I said, so what were those things you guys talking about? Did it look like they were talking about your family? Or He laughed. He goes, yeah. He said, no, there's plenty of trash talking going on today. Plenty of trash talking. So there was at least 4, quote, fights, camp fights. Nothing too violent, but I mean, guys getting thrown around. Oh, I think the one that really set off the Packers was Tucker Kraft running a little out pattern, turns back, nice catch down by the sidelines, and dudes are hitting him, trying to knock him down to the ground at the sideline. And that, then the Packers went nuts. Like, come on, it's Tucker Kraft. You know what the story is there. And you're taking shots at him out of bounds. Come on. But, Buda Baker and those guys, they're into it. By the way, when did this Josh Sweat thing get so fired up the last 48 hours? Like, he was going to be packing his bags and staying here instead of taking the plane back to Phoenix.
There are Packers people who share information and scoops and such, not like the Silverstein or Huber types, but the new era. I don't want to call them bloggers because they're people who share information and sometimes do very good work. But there's a couple people on the internet who are adamant that this is happening.
Are they that desperate for clicks? Because Ian Rappaport and Adam, they talked about this like a month ago. Like, no. Now here's where the storytelling comes in. Because Josh Sweat was ticked off when Jonathan Gannon, his head coach, got fired.
Yeah.
And he's 29 years old. And now the team is, losing. And if he's used to playing for Gannon, he's used to play for the Eagles and going to the Super Bowl twice in his career. And at 29, he's not getting any younger. So then everybody starts stirring this up. Oh, look, the Packers are crazy, man. Look, they got Micah Parsons last year. This year, maybe it'll be Josh. No. And I think Goody even said something to the effect of that this morning, like, we're not giving away 2 first rounds and a handful of others and Kenny Clark anytime soon again. All right. That's probably once in a lifetime. So anyway, Josh Sweat He just got off the PUP. He had some snaps out there today, but I think he's getting on the plane Friday night and going back to Phoenix.
Mike Clemens is here. Thanks to the Bay Motel. I'm just curious, and if you don't have a lot to say on this, it's fine. We can just skip it and move on because there's a Goody comment I want to break down anyways. But in what you could observe and what you saw today, what kind of measure did you get of Mike LaFleur?
I'm impressed by this guy. I think he's articulate, and I think he's got all the good qualities that his older brother has in terms of organization, a certain program, and those kinds of things.
Okay.
After that, I don't know. In game, boy, that's a wake up call. Hey, who's on his staff that I got to say hi to and shake hands with and chat with a little bit? Nathaniel Hackett.
Oh, really? He's in Arizona?
Oh, by the way, is ripped.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like put on 50 pounds of all muscle in the arms and stuff. So, yeah, that was kind of cool. That was the thing. The scrimmage happened. Marshawn Lloyd got some snaps, a couple from Josh Jacobs, not a lot. Like one visitor told me today, so have you seen Josh Jacobs, running like Josh Jacobs? And I go, no, not really. No, there's, he's got a groin right now, but it's not like you see him. And I think Bill asked me that today on the air. We haven't seen, a Josh Jacobs run where he's like, bam, bam, bam. They're probably saving it for the season.
Sure.
And same thing with Marshawn Lloyd. He's more like a West Coast back. They dump passes off to him. They run off tackle. They do not run him up the middle very much. Offensive line, though, I think it's pretty set now.
Okay.
I mean, your left tackle is Jordan Morgan. Aaron Banks seemed to have plenty of snaps in today, despite the tendonitis in the knee. Sean Ryan at center, who got thrown to the ground at one time, and he got in a little bit of fisticuffs. And then they're going to go with Jacob Monk, the third-year guy at right guard, and then Zach Bacco-Belawili and will be there. And you got Anthony Belton, big number 71, to back him up if he needs a breather or needs to come out of the game. He's going to be the backup right tackle, and John Williams probably is going to be the backup left tackle, a draft pick from last year. Okay. So I've got a real good feel now as to who they're going to play the Vikings and what 6 or 7 guys are going to take care of them for offensive line. And today I talked to Jagger Burton, and who looks good. He makes a few misses, but he's a rookie. I said, you realize now what's probably going to happen is that you and Jacob are going to rotate at right guard. And he said, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
That's what I've been told.
I was going to say week 1, I wouldn't be surprised if they start Jacob Monk, but knowing the Packers and the way this roster looks, I would be surprised if they weren't rotating that position.
There's one problem they could solve. How about they get Trey McBride, the tight end from the Cardinals? That would be nice.
I would like that.
That'd be good. Yeah. Cause our guy, Drake Dabney, had a bad drop today. He was wide open, and Jordan Love needed some help there because he was under pressure and they were blitzing. The Cardinals had a lot of energy today on defense. They were fired up, man. They were there to get some respect, and they didn't care. They came in to fight. And that was a thing toward the end of practice. The Packers kind of looked with a lot of gas on their own home field, Just
interesting. Mike Clemens is here. Lastly, can you give me your thoughts on this, Mike? This is a 30-second exchange, question and answer with Brian Gutekunst on Josh Jacobs. So I'm just going to let this play and tell me I want you to translate what you think Brian Gutekunst is saying or thinking in this.
Josh's situation is obviously still open. I'm not asking you what's going on with the legal situation, but if he does get suspended, do you need to make another move there, or are you confident with what you have that you can sustain?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident we can sustain it. That doesn't mean we wouldn't do that. Yeah, we'll deal with that when that comes. But we've obviously been, preparing for that in case that happens. But at the same time, I feel really good about the guys we got in that room, and I think we could survive that.
All right. To conclude, Mike, help us read between the lines there. What do you hear?
I hear we are having to think about if we don't have them.
Yeah.
And, Marshawn Lloyd, and, it's been nice that Pierre Strong Jr. has had a good camp, but we may have to go out and shop for that position. And in terms of what could happen to Jacobs, it's our understanding the league is now investigating, and that's totally isolated. That is totally up to Roger Goodell. and what the staff in New York think about the situation, and what they know, because they're not going to wait around for Brown County or whatever. That they have the freedom, if you will, to say charges or not or whatever allegations. There's detrimental conduct here, and we're going to put the hammer down on this stuff, because we know that teams, who knows, they might be pulling some kind of stunts. The player and his attorneys might be pulling something off. One person said to me, if the quote victim is no longer in town and been taken care of, that's not a fact. That's just a scenario. But it's like, if you take the person and say, look, where would you like your condo? Florida, Southern California? But if they're out of the county, it's kind of hard to conduct an investigation, right?
It feels more likely to me, Mike, that the NFL decides to suspend him for 6 games or whatever. Doesn't that seem like if he misses time, doesn't that seem like the more likely path?
Yeah. I think that's the way this thing seems to be going down. Okay. And again, we don't know anything about Josh, where he's at in this, because this happened Memorial Day weekend, and he's not talked to us since then. And that's just because that's the way this is being played. That's the way this is being played. It's a legal situation. It's up to the Brown County District Attorney and their office, and whatever their investigation is. They're not saying anything. They have no comment at this time. And that's where it stands. Whether or not the Hobart police didn't maybe do enough follow through when they came up with 5 charges, including strangulation, or, we know police departments have to be more lean toward these victims, that, like, look, these people don't want to be hurt, or
sure.
They made a 911 call because they were in fear of their life.
Overly cautious with that initial handling, for sure, which is understandable, 100%. Well, Mike, appreciate the breakdown of today's events. Going to hear a little bit more from Goody in hour number 2, but I got to run. Appreciate it, Mike. We'll talk again soon.
Yeah. The other great thing was we got to talk to Denny and Christy LaFleur, Matt and Mike's parents, who they come to practice, but today they let us kind of sneak around into a garage, and a couple of us got back there to have a nice little chat about that. And so for the first time in 8 years, we got a little bit more background on Matt LaFleur, who otherwise keeps his personal life very close to the vest. So more stories on that coming down the road. Okay?
Awesome. Something to look forward to, Mike. Appreciate it. Can't wait.
Thanks, Grant.
Mike Clemens, thanks to the Bay Motel in Green Bay. A little update from up in Green Bay. And now we will take a break. We can continue talking about that, but I have a feeling that some of you are going to want to hit at the Cooper Pratt situation last night, what's going on with the Brewers. Churio's got the night off tonight. The lineup is interesting. Sal Frelick's back in there, so that's interesting. Brewers talk, Packers talk, whatever you want to hit, we can do that next. 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Shopping for new windows and doors shouldn't feel like a negotiation. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin doesn't believe in games. They never inflate pricing, and there's no high-pressure sales pitch. Just premium windows and doors built for long-term comfort, beauty, and peace of mind. Buy direct through Pella, and one trusted team handles everything with Pella-certified installers every step of the way. Real pricing, premium quality, no games. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Schedule your free in-home consultation today at PellaWI.com.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I think Pat was more mad. Not the
bunt?
Oh, yeah.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah, because you can. There are moments. I was a guy who's come up and was asked to bunt against some of the nastiest closers. And when you see the sign go on, you're like,
Yeah, I mean, Pat's unique, as we know.
Yeah.
And in today's game where, managers for the most part placate players, Pat creates an environment there where the sum of the parts is greater and more important than any one individual part. And that's a standard now that they play a Brewers brand of baseball, and that's their identity. Guarantee, this has been building with Pat, with Cooper. This just wasn't, he didn't wake up last night and watch the game. I'm sure that, Cooper's just done some things that haven't met the standards that Pat's got in place.
All they can do is take accountability.
Real quick,
yeah,
you think of Caleb Durbin right now with the Boston Red Sox, who's the little engine that, no one working harder.
It's happened to him.
He did it to him.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit from MLB Network today, MLB Central. All of their shows hit on this today. And it's a very juicy topic. Manager really kind of out of nowhere benches a guy for a reason that might be a reach. So it's a juicy topic. I understand why people are picking at it, and it's great for a panel, a former player, a journalist, get everyone's perspective. It's just funny because the guy who was benched is Cooper Pratt. And with all due, it's not like PCA or Shohei got yanked out of a game. It's a 22-year-old shortstop that I would imagine 60, 70% people around the country don't know that name. They don't know who that is. And he's become the center of the baseball take universe today. Brewers lineup is out, and there's a couple interesting things worth noting that can build on some things we noticed last night. So I'll get to that. But first, I want to take a call or two, 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Interesting things worth noting.
You got to turn the radio down.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You got me?
This is Ian from Holman.
There we go, Ian. Now I can hear you loud and clear. What's going on, Ian? Thanks for waiting.
Yeah. Hey, I just had a quick comment. I mean, a lot of people are thinking it. It's nothing new, but with Cooper Pratt, I've worked my whole life very hard, not making money like he does.
Mm-hmm.
When he makes what, $2.8 million.
Mm-hmm.
The least you could do is just run out a little fly ball. The only thing,
sure. Do you think he was dogging it? Because my reaction when I watched the replay is he was running the speed that just about anybody would run on a batted ball like that. I did not see it and think, oh, he's dragging the plow.
Yeah, I mean, apparently Murphy thought, if that's the case, do what you're supposed to do and do what you're paid to do.
Sure. Well, he will now, right. Ian. I mean, my God, I appreciate the call. After watching his interview last night, he's gonna sprint. He might sprint to the stadium today. He might skip the bus ride and just run there full speed the whole time. Because he sounded terrified after the game last night. Like, I'll never jog again. I don't think he dogged it. I think he ran the representative speed. I think any other Brewer in the lineup would run that speed on that play. And even if he ran faster, I don't think he was getting to second. I don't think he was even getting close. But let me make it clear. I don't care. If Murph felt he needed to send a message, fine. Go nuts. And I will defer to Murphy in a situation like this because this is his wheelhouse. Of all of the duties that go into managing a baseball team, I think Pat Murphy is best at that. This is his thing. This is his specialty. So fine, cool. But I'm not gonna revise the events of last night and say Cooper Pratt was dogging it. No, I don't think he was dogging it. It doesn't mean that Pat Murphy shouldn't be allowed to pull levers and push buttons and send messages. Sure, go nuts, do it. But I feel like now half of this Brewers fan base is taking a big dump all over Cooper Pratt because that's what you got if you don't run. It's like, yeah, but did you guys watch? Like he was running. He wasn't getting to second. And I think if Pat Murphy went back and rewatched, which after the game last night, he openly admitted in his press conference, he did not. Like if he goes back and watches, he's he probably wasn't getting a second on that. Now, if he's upset about Cooper Pratt not getting the bunt down, fine. I'll also defend Cooper Pratt a little bit. And this is going to sound like I'm defending the player or making excuses for the player. I'm not. It's not like he disobeyed the sign and was swinging for the fences. It's not like the Brewers told him to bunt and he got up there and said, F that. I'm trying to put one over the wall. He just couldn't get the bunt down. And for everyone who wants, you got to call for bunts, you got to do more bunts. Some players aren't that good at it. And Cooper Pratt probably hasn't been asked to do it a whole lot in his career. Probably something that he'll practice now. I don't really have a problem with Cooper Pratt today. And I don't really have a problem with Murph. If he feels like he needs to send a message to wake up his team or wake up a young guy, go nuts. He's more than earned that right. He's proven that he's good at this stuff. So fine. But I'm not going to make up something last night to criticize Cooper Pratt unfairly. Especially with the situational hitting, because if we're nitpicking situational hitting, oh boy, there's a lot of other players from last night that I would like to criticize and that should be criticized first. Let's take another call here. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. Tough loss last night.
Yes.
Thought they had it. Brilliant at bats in the ninth from Contreras, Bowers, and Yelich. Just to come off the bench and to meet the moment, all three of those guys. And I was hoping that would be enough, and it wasn't. And you know what, Cone? We're picking at this game today, and it's great fodder for Sports Talk Radio. The Cubs lost too. It's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? I think some Brewers fans maybe get a little annoyed with daily Sports Talk Radio because when the Brewers lose, we criticize them. When they win, we compliment. Like, that's the nature of a daily talk show. It's not the end of the world last night.
Yeah, I saw a funny tweet that summed it up pretty well about baseball fans. Like, baseball fandom is closer to being really obsessed with trains than it is like NFL or NBA.
Yes.
So, that's just part of it.
We get furious at our baseball team. And I went to bed before the Cubs game was over. I woke up and I saw the Cubs lost. I'm like,
Like, all right, no harm, no foul. You get another shot today. The Cubs are down 2, knock on wood. Hopefully the Diamondbacks, your Snakes, Cone, down there in the desert, hopefully they can help the Brewers out again today.
Yeah, there's some crazy beef going on in that game the other day with some sign stealings from old friend Quentin Berry, who the Brewers desperately missed at first base. He's now promoted to third base with the Cubs, though.
He's moving up in the world. Yeah, he left for greener pastures, and who can blame him?
Yeah, and like, would he really want to follow in Ed Cedar's footsteps? Like that's a really big shadow to fill.
That's true. He knew he had reached his ceiling in Milwaukee. Yeah. Maybe Quentin Berry would have sent Cooper Pratt. That's the other thing last night. The first base coach for the Brewers was putting up the stop sign. Like, I don't know. If Murph wants to send a message, fine, Cone. But I'm not going to drag Cooper Pratt because I don't really think he did anything wrong.
No, and that's where maybe we are getting into just sports talk for sports talk reasons, but like, I'm really fine with how the whole situation played out last night.
Yeah.
Murph can do what he wants. Pratt, maybe didn't deserve the full benching, but, a little kick in the butt, might be able to go a long way.
Yeah.
He can pick it up too, a little bit offensively.
I think also, I don't think Murph viewed it as this, but I think it's an opportunity to empower Sal Frelick, Jake Bauers. Like, it's an opportunity for Murph to kind of let those guys do some mentoring and some coaching. And I think that can be good for a team. I don't know that I'd randomly find a way to bench a player to make that happen, but I think that can be like a positive, side effect of this.
Yeah. And let's really direct our negativity towards Jackson Churio and Bryce Terang for their performances last night. And Garrett Mitchell. And maybe Murph does deserve some crap for that. Lefty on lefty, you need a hit. Like, why? Sal Frelick looked like he was ready to go. Like, were they considering pinch hitting him? I don't know. But to have Garrett Mitchell step up in that situation was a little criminal. And I'll leave you with this. As Murphy, we saw him discipline Cooper Pratt. Has that ever happened with you and Bill Michaels?
No. He yanked me off a show in the second hour. Appreciate it, Cone. It has not. I'm trying to think if there's ever really been a moment where Bill snapped at me or vice. We really haven't. We're not in the same room every day. And at the Super Bowl, I'm an unbelievable go with the flow guy. So if there's a problem and somebody's riled up, I'm probably going to be the guy in the group that's a little bit more even keeled. It's never happened that I can think of with me. Maybe he wanted to. I can't remember the other. I mean, Churio, that at bat, the Garrett Mitchell, this is what's frustrating about Garrett Mitchell as a player is he's not the guy you want at the plate with a runner on third or second with less than 2 outs. In a situation where just put the bat on the ball, Garrett Mitchell's just an awful guy to have at the plate because he strikes out more often than your average Bear. And I had the same question about Sal Frelick. I know it's left on left, but is Sal Frelick healthy or not? Because I at least trust Sal Frelick to put the bat on the ball. I don't know if it's going to end up with a ringing double to the gap, but put the contact play on and see if you can get the run home from third base. Like, I trust Sal Frelick to at least get a ground ball to the right side. I don't with Garrett Mitchell, and he got thrown a Christmas present. That slider, the third pitch of the at-bat, that slider kind of inside, middle in, right at the belt, 85, and he fouled it back to the screen. I felt my soul leave my body during that pitch. Okay, there's a couple of you on hold. I'm sorry. If you can give me a couple minutes and wait, I don't want to go to you here because I'll have to cut you off in like 30 seconds. So if you can stick around, I promise you'll have as much time as you want to hit these very pressing issues with the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll get to the Packers in an hour or two and Jesse Temple as well.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
All right, last couple minutes here. Sorry, I went a little long with Cone. I went a little long with Ian. I got carried away. So if you're on hold, I can get you in right after the top of the hour. I just feel bad when I start a phone call and then I have to tell someone. Yeah, and get your point in 25 seconds. Although it is a skill, I would say, as a caller. It's an important skill to be a well-rounded caller to be efficient. Rock and Rick texts in. We've been spending a lot of time talking about the benching of Cooper Pratt, which I don't think is that big of a deal. I don't have a problem with Murphy sending a message. I also have no problem with anything Cooper Pratt did. He tried to get a bunt down. He couldn't do it. And I don't think he dogged it out of the box. I don't think he was getting to second base. But if Murphy wants to send a message, whatever. Good. That's the stuff that he's good at. I will defer to Murphy on that type of stuff. Rock and Rick says, I love what Murph did. More often than not, a righty popping down the first baseline will have crazy English and scoot away from the fielders. I saw Bronny do it once, and it skipped to the wall and got behind the right fielder. Ryan would have had a triple had he been running game of inches. So I don't remember this Ryan Braun play. Archival memory here from Rock and Rick. Pratt wasn't getting to second base. So I understand Murphy's drive and emphasis on constant focus, because in a game like last night, there's one or two swings or one or two moments where if you're not locked in, there it went. That was the opportunity to win the game. Just went by. You missed it. I get that. I don't think that's what happened with Cooper Pratt. But again, Murph gets the benefit of the doubt. I don't really care. Hour number 2 coming up next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers' lone joint practice of the year is in the books. The team welcomed in the Cardinals for a 2-hour and 15-minute practice that served as the final one of training camp. Things started great for the offense, including quarterback Jordan Love, but it didn't last. They struggled later in a team period and in the 2-minute drill. Still, Love thought there was good work being done.
I think we started off the day really hot, making a lot of plays, and I think towards the end we didn't finish as well. And I think that's obviously something we've harped on throughout the offseason, throughout training camp. So I think that was the kind of lowest point of the day, was just finish. I think in training camp, the joint practices, I think, it gets a little chippy, things happen, emotions start running a little higher. So we got to find ways to be able to just dial back in, focus back in, and be able to finish a practice.
There were a few dust-ups between the teams, but no fights, which was a goal to avoid coming in. Teams now meet in the final preseason game for both on Friday night at Lambeau Field. Also coming to Lambeau Field soon, the Wisconsin football team. They're just 11 days out from their season opener against number 4 Notre Dame in Green Bay. The two teams met back in 2021 in Chicago. Wisconsin had the lead lead going into the fourth quarter before the Irish ripped off 31 straight points. This year's game is on September 6th, kick coming at 6:30.
Everyone should feel confident about their path forward. Exact Sciences helps eradicate cancer by preventing it, detecting it earlier, and guiding personalized treatment. They continue to help patients and healthcare providers make timely, informed decisions before, during, and after a cancer diagnosis by partnering with the industry's best minds and top institutions to transform how to approach cancer. Known for Cologuard and Oncotype DX, allow Exact Sciences to help make a positive impact in your health path forward. Learn more at exactsciences.com.
Well, the Brewers and Mets continuing their series out in New York. Milwaukee dropped the opener last night 3-2 in extra innings, left their lead in the NL Central at 5.5 games on the Cubs with 30 to play. That includes 7 against Chicago over the last few weeks of the season. First pitch tonight, 6:10. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Kyle.
Pratt, pop-up, shallow right, long run, and it's going to fall, and it gets by Benj, but Cooper Pratt puts on the brakes. It's a bloop single into the Bermuda Triangle behind first base.
Looks like we're going to get a pinch runner for Pratt. David Hamilton is coming in to run. Pratt looked very confused about this move in the 5th inning.
I wonder if Pat Murphy was upset with him not taking the extra base.
Vinny, I think you're absolutely right.
Some of the guys pulled me aside and just let me know, like, hey, this is how we do it here. And I know that, and I just, that it won't happen again.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
All right, hour number 2, the Wisco Sports Show presented tonight by La Crosse Beer House Corner, 3rd and Pearl, downtown La Crosse. I don't know if you folks have been paying attention to the calendar, but we're, a month away? 4 weeks away from Oktoberfest? I'm going to stop in there, get out my Oktoberfest hat, big green hat with the feather, stop in there for a mug of authentic German beer. But it's not just an Oktoberfest spot. Anytime you need a big mug of beer, a nice appetizer or dinner as you're kicking around downtown, it's right there in the heart of downtown La Crosse. Appreciate La Crosse Beer House's support of the show, sponsorship, and anytime we want to go remote, broadcast somewhere, whether it's at the Super Bowl, Radio Row with Bill, or spring training, or the Combine, La Crosse Beer House has always been there to support the show. So if you're a WKTY listener in La Crosse, or maybe you live somewhere else in the state, and you're going to be in La Crosse soon for whatever reason, maybe Oktoberfest, we'd just appreciate it if you stop in and support them with your business. Cooper Pratt's been item number 1 tonight on the show. To be clear, I don't think it's this massive, flashing, red light, huge issue with the Brewers. I don't even think it's the reason they lost last night, even though David Hamilton was the one who threw the ball to the backstop. But it's certainly the most interesting topic. It's most certainly the interesting point of conversation from last night's game. So we're having fun kicking it around. There's certainly other things worth talking about from last night's game that we can get to. Jesse Temple is going to be here at 5:30, and I also have a couple comments from Brian Gutekunst. I think we're going to do that at 5:20. All of that is on the board, and I'll take your calls on anything. We had Mike Clemens in hour number 1, so we had to cut some callers a little short. Apologies, but some time now. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
You know, Grant, one thing I liked about the Brewers call, the Brewers broadcast team call, and that Cooper play was that they made a Bermuda Triangle reference.
Yes.
They said it went into the Bermuda Triangle. And I thought that was a good call. And that just reminded me of how much of a psyop the Bermuda Triangle is and has been, because it's just a psyop to keep people from talking about Racine and just all the real cabal activity that happens in the pyramids underneath Lake Michigan. So that was a nice reminder of that.
You don't hear much about the Bermuda Triangle anymore. Mad Max, when I was young, I used to be scared of the idea of flying through the Bermuda Triangle, even though why would I ever do that? But it was the thing that was much more prescient in our minds. Now there's a new Bermuda Triangle every week.
Yeah, it was something as a kid that kind of freaked me out, and it was just something that kind of worried me, even though I had no reason to worry about it. We didn't live anywhere near it, but I don't know. It's just an interesting thing that kind of fell off people's radar, and there's just so many more weird things in the world that we're talking about today.
Is the Bermuda Triangle washed? 608-321-1670. We'll do that on tomorrow's show. What's going on, Mad Max?
Yeah. So just with the Brewers last night, I think they just got I think they kind of got what they deserved last night. Like, they were not rewarded for their bad behavior. Like I think pulling Pratt for Hamilton, like whatever. I'll give Murphy the benefit of the doubt after giving more time to think about that. But
Sure.
but then Hamilton kind of threw the game away in the 10th. That wasn't, and he's being rewarded with the start tonight over Ortiz, which is just another thing. Is I just think Murphy is kind of inconsistent over who he sends a message to and things that he kind of lets slide. So those are the things that bothers me a little bit. And I also didn't really like the way Murphy managed the bullpen last night either. It's the first game of a 16-day stretch without a day off. He basically uses the whole A bullpen. He pitched Ashby when we were down by a run, and then he pitched McGill for 2 innings, and I'm just not really a fan of that. And then in the 9th inning, too, it's just Hamilton kind of got robbed on a nice play by the Mets. But again, don't strike out 2 times before that. Put the ball in play. So those are the things.
Yeah, especially Lara, Mad Max. Appreciate it. And look, Lara is like young guy. I shouldn't be beating up on Lara more than Garrett Mitchell. If we're looking at those 2 at bats, we should be asking more from Garrett Mitchell. Because even though he's missed a lot of time, Garrett Mitchell is older. He has more major league experience. Why I'm more upset with Lara's at bat is because Luis Lara is supposed to be swing discipline, pitch identification, contact. And way too often recently, and you've seen this in some of his struggles, he's lost grip on the zone and he's done a lot of swinging and missing and he's done a lot of chasing. That doesn't help me. Luis Lara doesn't hit for power. He doesn't do enough other things offensively to make it okay when he loses his main thing. His main thing is, ball strike recognition and swing decisions and contact. He, in theory, should be the perfect guy to have at the plate with runners on second and third and nobody out. Because at the very least, you're going to have the ball's going to be in play and you have a chance to get the run home. Garrett Mitchell's not that guy. Garrett Mitchell's a guy who strikes out 28. I don't know what his strikeout percentage is right now. I would think it's a little south of 30%. Garrett Mitchell's not that guy. Luis Lara is. I know this sounds crazy because it's lefty. I would have preferred Sal Frelick for Garrett Mitchell. Yes, Sal Frelick's still a lefty, but I trust him to put the bat on the ball in a way that I don't for Garrett Mitchell. And Garrett Mitchell got thrown a gift, man. That slider, 85 miles an hour, belt, middle in, that should be in the Hudson. It should be floating down the Hudson River today. And the guy fouled it back to the screen. You could hear the pain in Levering's voice during the broadcast. So yeah, those 2 at-bats in the 9th, certainly, Mad Max. They're frustrating for different reasons. The Luis Lara one is frustrating because it's like, hey, that's the one thing you're supposed to be good at is contact and swing decisions, and it feels like we've lost that a little bit. So Churrio's not starting tonight. Frelick, Lara, and Bowers isn't playing tonight either. Interesting. Frelick, Mitchell, and Lara in the outfield. Contreras catching, Yelich DH, and kind of a weird lineup. There's just a lot of David Hamilton. Can I also say that? I know that's not high-level analysis. My analysis of David Hamilton and the Brewers is there's just a lot of David Hamilton. I don't hate him. I don't think he sucks. There's just a lot of David Hamilton. And I don't know how much is enough, and I don't know how much is too much. I can't quantify. I can't give you specifics. I will just limit my analysis to it's a lot of David Hamilton. I think that's the best way I can summarize my take on that. Hardly scientific, but I think it drives at the spirit of what's going on there. It's just a lot. It's a lot of David Hamilton. 608-321-1670. Continue your calls here. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
It's Darnell.
Good evening, Darnell.
Hey, listen, the player's manager, Pat Murphy, is obviously just playing 40 chess here. He gets mad and pulls one of his players so that the blame will be on him at the end of the game when he knew they were going to lose, right? He wants people to be mad at him and not the players. And actually, it's worked out that way pretty well today where, I know, a lot of Brewers Twitter is like, what is Pat Murphy doing? Pat Murphy sucks. He's the worst manager in the history of the game. You know what I mean? So I think he knew that they were probably going to find a way to lose that game, and he wanted he wanted to like throw the spotlight onto him instead of his players, which I think is just a great managerial move there. And really looking out for his guys.
I'm also not that mad that he used Ashby and McGill. If we're really analytically deciding what's right or wrong, he probably was a little overzealous with the bullpen last night. I just don't really have that much of a problem with it because that game felt very winnable right down to the last at bat. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So what?
Also,
we're supposed to punt a 1-run lead against the crappy Mets so Aaron Ashby can get a second day off in a row. Like, maybe they should. I have a hard time getting there.
But the other part of this is you just mentioned too much Hamilton. How much Hamilton is enough Hamilton? Think about if that ball is 3 inches to the left, we're singing a completely different tune today.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting how baseball works, where Lindor doesn't make a fantastic catch on that. The Brewers score 2 runs there, and most likely McGill shuts the door in the bottom of the 9th. So we're not even talking about, well, what would have happened if they didn't pull Cooper Pratt and then Hamilton doesn't throw the ball away in the 10th? You know, like it's funny how things work, and everything happens for a reason. So I think Murphy's got his finger to the pulse of the team, and he knows what's best, and we're just going to have to do it. We're going to have to do it.
So appreciate the call, Darnell. Excellent as always. See, here's the thing. I am against David Hamilton, independent of his game losing gaffe, and I am pro Cooper Pratt independent. Like I'm defending Cooper Pratt, and I'm anti-David Hamilton, but my anti-David Hamilton thing right now has nothing to do with him throwing the ball away at the end of the game. Like I don't actually really even care about that much. My analysis of the benching of Cooper Pratt is actually pretty detached from the gaffe in the bottom of the 10th. Because at that point, man, like, okay. Like, yeah, David Hamilton needs to make that play. Duh, of course. That goes without saying. It's a pretty simple play, actually. It's a force out. Like you don't even need to locate your throw well. You just need to get it to the frame of the catcher. But Luis Lara, Garrett Mitchell in the 9th, Jackson Churio for 5, Tarango for 5. Like there's so much other stuff. There's so much other stuff. The game ended that way in the 10th. There was a million different ways that game could have been won or lost before then. So my criticism of David Hamilton and my thoughts on the benching of Cooper Pratt are actually really detached from the defining play in the actual end moment of the game. Wisco Sports Show. One more here. Who's this?
Hey, it's Andy in Sun Prairie.
Hey, Andy, what's going on?
Oh, not much. Well, 2 quick things. The Cooper Pratt thing, I think Murph was just trying to get at his first reaction, his twitch. It isn't that he even said in the statement, I like the guy's hustle or something. Like he's like, I like his energy. I like his efforts. It wasn't
not lazy.
An effort problem.
Yeah.
It was trying to get him to not keep his eyes on the ball, but run the damn thing out as soon as it's hit. And that's something for a young player you can get to by doing something just a smidge drastic. In the old days, yelling at him. In the new days, something like this. And at the end of the day, we trust Murph consistently because he's the 2-time, manager of the year. And he's manager of the year because of stuff like this. He's, at the end of the day, a college coach who takes that same mentality to his players, especially the ones that appreciate it, the younger ones, like Cooper Pratt. So he knew exactly his spot. He knew exactly what he was doing. And he knew that doing this would not only wake up Cooper Pratt, twitches for the next one of those things, but it would also send a really well-needed wake up to the rest of the bench and some of the older guys saying, you better be running stuff out. And I think it's exactly why we like Murph. And the other thing, I heard something on one of your competitor networks. Just it happened to be on the wrong channel for a second. Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. What'd they say?
One of these guys was saying this isn't going to win them this isn't going to lose them the World Series, but it's not going to win them the World Series. He was on the anti-Murph end of this, and I'm like, no, you morons. This is exactly why they might win the World Series, because he's getting the most out of the least. And this is the type of buttons you push to do that. And I couldn't have been happier with Murph to, push a button that he knew he could push in a way that would actually pay dividends. You watch what happens with Cooper. He's going to run his butt off the rest of the season. And 2, you bring in a guy like Hamilton for a little while and get him some more innings. Clearly he needs them. That was a good side benefit to it. The fact they lost the game, the other caller was right. That game could have been won in the ninth with that liner was a foot over. So, you can't feel bad about that loss. And I really did like the coaching that Murph did. And I think it is something that can actually win them a World Series.
So I defer, Andy. That's a good call. Appreciate it. And it kind of echoes my stance on Pat Murphy. Of all the things that go into managing a baseball club, I think Murphy has shown that this is his wheelhouse. This is the thing that he's best at. And I think he's got other strengths. I think he has plenty of weaknesses too. But the one area that I'm probably always going to give Pat Murphy the benefit of the doubt on is, I don't know if discipline is the right word, but clubhouse, standard setting, culture building. Like, I think he's excellent at that. That's his thing. So if he felt that he needed to send a statement, fine. Send a statement, send a message. Go ahead. I'm going to defend the player a little bit here because I don't really think the player did anything wrong. Which I guess if you send a message and the message is needed, then I guess the vehicle is secondary. Who cares? And I agree. Cooper Pratt's going to run to the friggin' stadium tonight. He's not even going to take the bus from the hotel yet. He's never going to jog again. But I don't think he was dogging it last night either. One more call, and then we're going to go to break here a little bit from Brian Gutekunst, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Louie in Eau Claire.
Good evening, Louie. How have you been?
Hey, Grant. I'm doing well. I hope you had a good week off there, Grant. A little R&R. Well deserved.
Thanks.
So from last night's game, a couple things I didn't love. At the start of 16 games in a row, McGill pitching 2 innings in a game you don't win. Not great, but whatever. I think not a ton of pitches. It'll probably be okay. The Cooper Pratt deal, I kind of feels like Murph kind of picked his spot there. I mean, if you remember a couple of years back, he kind of soft benched Frelick and Ortiz for minor little gaffes that when obviously Murph likes those guys and appreciates their efforts. The thing that stuck with me from last night's game that I think might have the most lasting impact or kind of bothered me. So we're in the 10th inning. Hamilton's on second base, no outs. You got the top of the lineup up, Churio and Terang, and they both put together non-competitive at-bats.
Yeah.
Churio swinging wildly at 3 pitches against a middling reliever on a bad team.
Yes.
So that's what I don't like, and I think that's what might ultimately hinder this team. I don't think they need to hit a bunch of home runs to win, but in late game situations where you need to get either need to hit the ball hard and off the wall and score the guy, or they need to at very least have a productive at bat, get the guy to third so they can get him in. I have no problem with the Brewers not hitting home runs, but lately they're winning for the most part, so it's not becoming a glaring issue. They need to be able to execute because your top 2, your top 4 or 5 best players putting out of those at bats in a late game situation against a rather middling reliever is not going to cut it.
It's crushing, Louie. Appreciate the call. To lose by 1 run in extra innings on a night where maybe your second or third or your first and third or your first and second, 2 of your best hitters go combined 0 for 10. That's crushing. That sucks. And Jackson Churio is going to have bad nights. My frustration with Jackson Churio, and I've been on this for about a month and a half, is he's going to get his hits. He's going to get his average. His numbers are always going to look good because he's so friggin' talented. That 10th inning at bat last night is such a good example of, okay, Jackson, can you feel that this is a significant moment? I don't need a hit necessarily. I don't need a home run. But this needs to be a moment where you recognize, okay, I got to dig in and have a good at bat here. You're up by 5 runs in the 6th inning of a game in May. Like, sure, yeah, you're going to have some at-bats where you get up there and you don't really feel. To me, it's not being an athlete. It's being, can you be a ball player, Jackson Churio? Can you be a ball player? And sometimes it's like, you're not great at the baseball player stuff. Great athlete. But like the baseball sense. That 10th inning at bat last night is a good example. Jesse Temple at 5:35. I want to hear a little bit from Brian Gutekunst next when we get back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, welcome back. Jesse Temple here in about 10 minutes. I'm going to get some comments from Brian Gutekunst, but first caller came in during the break, and if you want to jump in and have a Brewers opinion, I want to give you a platform. Wisco Sports Show, who's this?
Grant.
Vagabond. Good evening. Well, talk about whatever you want. But before I did a hard topic change, I wanted to take the call first.
Yeah, I guess I liked a question posed by somebody, I think it was Gary Alvarez, was why is everybody so upset about the Brewers every single day? And I feel like he must not listen to the show, because it's very clear that at this point, for half of Brewers fans, it's just a bit. Like, you can't be satisfied. It's like one of the best teams in baseball. It's, it's such a random game. And throughout the course of a season, there's all these averages, there's all these stats, but it's really meant to apply fairly randomly. And the ability for a hitter to step up in a big moment, I think, is so overblown. But it's what is keeping Brewers fans from having confidence going into the playoffs. And so it's the one thing that's causing everybody to kind of give pause is, do they have actual institutional moxie, right? So do they have that ability to show up in the big moment? So I think it's a fun little dichotomy going on of, like, the casual observer being like, why are everybody so pissed off all the time? And then you're like, oh, it's that thing, because when the lights are bright in the playoffs against the Dodgers, is Jackson Chourio just going to poop down his leg like he did last year? So I think I'll hang up and listen, but I like reframing the baseball conversation at this time, because it's ridiculous to the casual observer looking at the standings and looking at the sentiment on Twitter. But as an everyday listener, I 100% understand where you're coming from. That's all I got.
That's the thing. Appreciate it, Vagabond. I mean, it's a daily talk show. So if the team loses last night, We're going to talk about why they lost. Our frustration with why they lost a certain at bat or a certain moment doesn't necessarily mean we hate the team or think the team sucks. That's not how it works. It's a daily talk show. The Brewers lost last night, so we're talking about the loss. I also think that's just baseball. I think that's baseball. I think if you were to listen to most fans in most markets, I think baseball fans are more nihilist than NBA fans or football fans. Be my guess. I don't know that to be true, but that would be my guess. I would also say don't take everyone's frustration with the ninth inning last night and interpret that as they all hate the team, because I don't think that's true either. A little from Brian Gutekunst today. I played this cut from Mike Clemens in hour number 1, but this isn't what he had to say about the Josh Jacobs situation, which I bookmarked.
Josh's situation is obviously still open. I'm not asking you what's going on with the legal situation, but if he does get suspended, do you need to make another move there, or are you confident with what you have that you can sustain?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident we can sustain it. That doesn't mean we wouldn't do that. Yeah, we'll deal with that when that comes. But we've obviously been, preparing for that in case that happens. But at the same time, I feel really good about the guys we got in that room, and I think we could survive that.
So Matt Schneidman was asking the question: is Brian Gutekunst incessantly needs to just absolutely slam water during these things? That did not jump out to me, but I saw a couple of other Packers beat reporters basically saying, it sounds like they kind of expect to not have Josh Jacobs for a stretch. And that's what Mike Clemens said earlier. I think at this moment in time, it's much more likely that Josh Jacobs is suspended by the league than he is to be charged criminally. And you might think, well, Grant, how can the NFL suspend him if he hasn't been convicted of a crime or charged with a crime? Sure, fine. But that's not how the NFL works, right? They can levy their own discipline and handle things. And I think, I don't know, but I would think that after the last 10 or 15 years, the NFL has learned, like, okay, if we ever need to err on one side or the other, we're going to err on the side of being a little bit more discipline heavy, especially for incidents that involve domestic assault. Then again, like, is James Pierce Jr. getting suspended? I think for every incident like this, if Josh Jacobs gets suspended, you can find 3 or 4 others where a player maybe did something similar or comparable and they weren't, nothing happened. Brian Gutekunst on Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor's training camp.
No, Tyrod's been great. He's done a great job for us.
Am I the only one? Am I the only one hearing this? I can't be the only one hearing this. The guy can't even finish his Tyrod Taylor question, and you hear Goody hustling to screw the cap back on his water.
Tyrod Taylor's training camp.
No, Tyrod's been great. He's done a great
You hear it, right?
His training camp.
No, Tyrod's been great. He's done a great job for us. Obviously, I think I talked a little bit about just the luxury of having that experience in the room and having a guy that's played as much as he has, because that guy really does support Jordan in a ton of ways, and he's just very experienced there. So kind of feel very fortunate to have him.
It's interesting to hear Goody talk about Tyrod Taylor, because I think Tyrod Taylor, by most mind's eye, has been bad. And when asked about Tyrod Taylor, what does Goody say? Oh, he's been great in the room. He's been a great leader. He's been a great. But the thing is I don't think they need a backup quarterback who's a great resource for Jordan Love. I don't think they need a backup quarterback who is a sounding board and a sage advice giver. I think they need a backup quarterback at this stage who can win him a game if they need to win him a game. I think Jordan Love has now progressed to the point where he's got command of the offense. He's been in the league long enough. I don't think he needs a mentor. I think they need a backup quarterback. And just based on what we've seen so far, I don't know if Tyrod Taylor's going to be great in that role. He looks pretty old. He does not look good. So I understand he's a great resource and a great leader and a mentor. I don't think that's... If the backup quarterback can also be that, great. And maybe 3 years ago, it's more important for Jordan Love's backup to be sage advisor guy than it is to be, because we're rebuilding and who cares. This is a team where if they got to tab the backup quarterback to play, I don't really care if he's a mentor. I care if he can win him a game. I don't know if that's Tyrod Taylor at this point in his career. Lastly, this isn't really apropos of anything right now. But it caught my ear because it's built on something we've talked about before. This is Andy Herman with a question about revisiting the Micah Parsons trade.
Brian, you're coming up on the 1 year of trading for Micah Parsons. A year later, what have you learned from that experience? And do you find yourself less or more likely to make a similar type of deal after learning from that?
Well, there's not many Micah Parsons on the planet, so if there's others available, we'll certainly consider it. But no, yeah, I think again, those are rare occurrences that when players like that become available, and whether in my career another one will become available, who knows, like that. But yeah, I mean, I think I've learned a lot more about Micah being here, and it's just strengthened our our thought process and what he can do for us. But yeah, I mean, there's only so many guys in our game that can affect the game the way he does. So when they become available, you got to always kind of look at it.
There's a contingent of people who follow the Packers or cover the Packers that when they made the Micah Parsons trade felt like it was the most out of character thing that the Packers have ever done. Can you believe the Packers did that? They never do things like this. And my point at the time, and this is why I was kind of buying into the idea that they might actually trade for Micah Parsons, because my point was, well, just look at the last 10 years. What other players have the Packers been in on? Khalil Mack. They reportedly offered 2 first-round picks at the time, which is not nothing. Don't act like, yeah, but they didn't try that hard. They offered 2 first-round picks. Holy balls. They tried really hard. My point was the Packers will get involved in taking big swings when there is a worthwhile big swing to take. And that is Micah Parsons, Khalil Mack, Myles Garrett, maybe in an alternate universe where it lines up better. I think the Packers will always be in on players like that because those players are unbelievable. They're not going to go for the Dexter Lawrence for a first-round pick. They're not going to go for Jalen Ramsey, or maybe Jalen Ramsey's a bad example. I loved that Brian Gutekunst answered it that way because I think so many fans have a fundamental misunderstanding. A lot of Packers fans seem to think that this last offseason, Brian Gutekunst fell on his head and all of a sudden decided to be an aggressive GM. I think what the Packers did with Micah Parsons is well within their order of operations and how they've been doing things for a long time. They don't make moves like this very often because Reggie White doesn't hit free agency very often, and Khalil Mack and or Micah Parsons don't become available via trade as they're entering their prime. So keep that in mind, Packers fans, when you're conceptualizing how the Packers operate or how aggressive or passive they are. The way the Packers operate, and I don't think that's going to change, they will always be in on players like this. They offered 2 firsts for Khalil Mack. The Bears had better picks. They offered more. I loved Goody's framing of that because I think fans need to understand that, and he helped me articulate it a little bit. Okay, Jesse Temple going to join us to talk Badgers next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Shopping for new windows and doors shouldn't feel like a negotiation. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin doesn't believe in games. They never inflate pricing, and there's no high-pressure sales pitch. Just premium windows and doors built for long-term comfort, beauty, and peace of mind. Buy direct through Pella, and one trusted team handles everything with Pella-certified installers every step of the way. Real pricing, premium quality, no games. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Schedule your free in-home consultation today at PellaWI.com.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Jesse. Hey, Jesse. 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 Jesse.
Jesse Temple set to join us here. I am getting real excited for Wisconsin Notre Dame. I don't think it's going to go well for the Badgers, but I'm getting mighty excited a week from Sunday night. So we'll recap fall camp with Jesse, talk about some of the question marks that remain that the Badgers are going to have to settle over the next week and a half or so. So here's my conversation from earlier today with Jesse Temple. Enjoy. Jesse Temple is here, Badger Connect. You see him on the camp with Zach Heilprin as well, presented by Brennan's. They just did, I don't know if it's a fall camp recap, but we have had our last public practice now. So the Badgers will move forward practicing without the prying eyes of the media, getting ready for Notre Dame a week from Sunday. I just have some bigger picture questions to kind of recap fall camp, Jesse. I don't know if these are superlatives, but just kind of big picture things. Let's start with a belief that maybe you held coming into fall camp that was confirmed, a hunch that you had that you saw, you confirmed, you said, yes, I was right about this thing.
Well, I thought the defense was going to be very good, and I still believe that. I know that we've talked a lot about Mason Posa and Cooper Catalano, and they've got to take another step as sophomores. But I think the staff believes that they've got some good people in the right places. The interior defensive line for as many new faces as they've brought in. But I don't want to sit here and pretend like they're a top 10 defense without knowing what it's going to look like against a top 10 team in Notre Dame. They're going to be tested, I imagine, down the field, and it's a remade secondary where people are optimistic at this stage. But it's one thing to be optimistic and another thing to have them execute when the bullets are flying.
So my follow-up, and you kind of mentioned it there, was if there is a weakness or if there's an area that Notre Dame
probably is best suited to test? Would it be the secondary and pushing the ball down the field a week from Sunday?
Well, I don't know if it's a weakness yet, but one of my biggest questions, and I think a lot of people's questions, is about the offensive line, frankly. And it's not anybody's fault, but Emerson Mandel wasn't able to participate in team drills because he had a foot injury back in the spring. And Kevin Haywood got hurt early in fall camp. Now, certainly it looked like, based on him trying to jog on the sideline and stuff, that he's ramping back toward Notre Dame. But when you don't have two projected starters, all of a sudden you're asking your sixth and your seventh guy to play in the starting lineup. And so we see 6 or 7. I like
Thank
that.
you.
I like what you did there.
I don't know if you caught that or not.
Reference. Of course.
Okay.
Anyway, I think that there are questions about, well, how are the tackles going to hold up against really good edge rushers? Is Colton Joseph going to be running for his life? Will they be able to run the ball? We saw some holes open for the running backs. We also saw a lot of plays and a lot of times where defensive guys were getting after it. And so it's hard to know in practice. Is it because this is going to be a top 25 defense? Is it because the offense is going to struggle? Or is it a mix of these things and the offense is good and the defense is good? So that's a big question that I have, though, the O-line.
So Kevin Haywood and Emerson Mandel are on my list. We can circle back to that. A couple more things from fall camp. What's maybe something that you thought coming in, a belief that you had that has maybe changed, or something that you thought that now you think differently about after fall camp and all those practices?
I don't know what I believed about Colton Joseph going in. Certainly the numbers a year ago at Old Dominion were outstanding. He was the Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year. But I like the things that I've seen from him. And I know there's been discussion about, well, he wasn't spectacular, but he was solid. I know I've said before the last spectacular quarterback was Russell Wilson. But I think there are some things that he can do that when you see, you have an opportunity for 30 practices that are open to reporters between spring ball and fall camp, you can see why they got him and you can see where he has the chance to be special. So again, I don't know, what I thought of him when he got here other than the numbers at Old Dominion, but when you can see it within the flow of the offense, it makes you think they got a chance on offense, which is a heck of a lot more than you can say last year and even the year before at times.
Well, and I don't know that he has to be spectacular. I think Polzine wrote this week, it's like, steady will work, man. Like, let's start there. Let's start with steady, or let's start with solid, and hopefully Colton Joseph can at least be that. Do you think there's a winning quotient, or a thing like he was a successful winning player, at least in that conference last year? Is there anything to that? Not just a guy who was productive, but a guy who kind of played a high level of football last year. Does that mean something to you?
It doesn't hurt, but I'm not going to say yes because they've brought in plenty of dudes who won games somewhere else. Tanner Mordecai was a really good quarterback at SMU. Now, I think he was good for Wisconsin. It's just unfortunate that it was year one of a failed Phil Longo system, and then Tanner broke his hand and was out for a month after playing against Iowa. But it doesn't hurt to have people who understand what a winning culture looks like, or to have been responsible for helping to establish that winning culture. On the other hand, you've got 50 new dudes in a program that has not had a winning culture of late. So hard for me to read too much into that, other than I'd rather have someone who's won than someone who's been at 0-12 and is used to losing and is just going to shrug their shoulders if the stuff hits the fan at Wisconsin.
Doesn't guarantee anything, but doesn't hurt. Okay, I like that. I'll mark that down. Is there a player or a position group that you've seen take really big strides? Maybe not just since the beginning of fall camp, but the beginning of the offseason. You can throw spring ball in there as well.
That's a really good question. I'll go with the edge rushers. You know, they have a lot to replace in Mason Reiger and Daryl Peterson and the numbers that they were able to put up. And it's a lot of new guys with a mix of people who've been here but haven't taken that next step yet. I told Zach it felt like every practice we were looking at Sebastian Cheeks coming up with 1 or 2 sacks. I think Nick Clayton has great explosiveness for whatever snaps he gets in there. And they've got a variety of bodies because you have a Michael Garner who's 6'7", 307 pounds. You've got a Justice Boone who transferred in from the SEC, and some smaller, or nobody's small if you're playing on the edge, but relative to 300 pounds or 280 pounds. So I think that group has the potential to create some issues. And we know that some of Wisconsin's best defenses have had star quality players. And maybe the star quality is the most Mason Posa and Cooper Catalano, but you need guys in the front seven who can help them.
And I suppose I hadn't even thought about it. You know, players who have made strides since spring ball, that might just mean that they arrived and they've been picking things up. You know what I mean? Like they have a better understanding of the playbook. They have a better understanding of Wisconsin. Like you probably see now, I don't want to speak for you, but probably more now so than ever before covering college football, differences or strides or improvements being made from spring ball to fall ball. Like that difference has to be pretty significant for players in a way where maybe it wasn't 8 to 10 years ago.
I think that's reasonable given the number of transfer portal players who, even if they have college experience, haven't been in this system. And it's a totally different language, really, when you're, and some of it may be similar, but it's a different call and the expectations are different. And maybe even how you line up is different. So I also think being healthy, which is the most obvious statement ever, but I'm talking about guys who were injured at various stages of spring ball. I mentioned Justice Boone and Michael Garner, and you get those reps in practice. Now, all of a sudden, you've got the timing down, and instead of just working your way in with the reserves, you got an opportunity to play with the ones. That's huge.
Jesse Temple is here, Badger Connect, and him and Zach over the last week. They're always putting out good content at the camp, but I think you guys have met the moment and the urgency and the demand, like just constant content, for fans who want to know everything going on at practice. Lastly, is there a player you're most excited to watch that maybe you think I don't want to say the casual fan. Obviously, there's hardos who follow every name and they're looking at the too deep. The average bear walking around who's excited to watch the Badgers. Do you think there's a player that those fans maybe aren't aware of and they're about to be?
Boy, you're asking me who I want to hype up in this moment, and I don't know who specifically to pick. I could probably go positionally, though. I don't know who's going to make a bunch of catches on offense. I could say Eugene Hilton Jr. looks like he's ready to take a leap, though I think fans are probably aware of him. He only had 9 catches as a true freshman last year, but he had the best day a wide receiver had all camp. He must have had 6 touchdown catches and ran one in off a jet sweep in one practice. So they've been looking for a number 1 wide receiver. I don't know if they have that definitively. He's got that kind of potential. Defensively, everybody knows about Posa and Catalano. I think John Kamara is an interesting guy because he transferred in from Kansas. And if he's on the field, it could be with those two as well. I mean, they've got a lot of versatility defensively where you can have 3 inside linebackers out there. You can have 3 outside linebackers on there. Obviously, you can have 5 defensive backs. They can do a lot of different rotations. So maybe that's an answer without an answer because I think you could go a lot of different directions. But there's a lot of people that are in position to make a big leap. They just have to go do it.
That's a perfect answer. Back to the O-line, because you mentioned Kevin Haywood and Emerson Mandel. Luke Fickell talked, was it this last weekend, Saturday or Sunday? Zach was very nice to send some audio, and I was listening to all the different cut-ups. And the one thing that jumped out to me is we still, at least publicly, aren't being told a ton of details about when those two are going to return to practice. So I guess a 2-part practice, or a 2-part question. Are Kevin Haywood and Emerson Mandel going to be able to practice this week or next? And if so, is that enough time? Are they going to be able to be ready for Notre Dame if they're able to practice?
What Luke said, and it was Sunday, is that they probably wouldn't have an answer in the next few days, but they're going to need an answer in the next week because obviously, as we're having this conversation on Wednesday, when they get to Monday, it's game week and you need to prepare. And that's the big question to me. First of all, I don't want to pretend to be a doctor, though I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
What's that from?
Commercial, good advertisement.
Okay, that's right.
So you're welcome, Holiday Inn, for the free advertisement. Either way, I think it's hard if you're Emerson Mandel and you haven't practiced at all to just go in there and all of a sudden you're ready to play against Notre Dame. At a certain point, I think the staff has to have a cutoff, and it's like either you're ready now or you're not. And I can't tell you what that cutoff would be other than to say, if you're not ready Monday of game week or even Sunday, I don't know how in the world you can just plug yourself in on the O-line and they say you're good to go. I think it's encouraging that Kevin Haywood was jogging and that he wasn't wearing any kind of a brace or a boot or whatever, which is what he had initially. The Mandel one strikes me as a little bit more challenging if you're coming off of a surgery and you haven't been able to practice at all. So we will see. I do think that at least interior-wise, I like Styles Blackman, who they put in there at right guard. Before that, it was Blake Cherry, and then he got dinged up and was working with the 2s. They've had Lucas Simmons working with the 1s at right tackle. I think those tackles are going to be challenged, whether it's Simmons and P.J. Wilkins or Haywood and P.J. Wilkins. But it's a very important question right now. If they're ready, how much time do they need in order to just go toe-to-toe with the number 4 team in the country?
Yeah, no kidding. I was going to ask a follow-up on how you felt about the O-line, just big picture. I guess I spent most of the offseason thinking, well, Kevin Haywood will get back. That'll make a huge difference. And now here we are a week and a half away from a game, and he's still not Menderson, you know, I guess I was hoping to feel a little bit better and feel that position group was a little bit more of a strength at this moment in time. Obviously, those 2 injuries and question marks are going to impact that, but I haven't followed the rest of the line closely enough like you and Zach, so I wouldn't be able to give a super great summation of how great I feel about that position group, you know?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And it's different at different spots. You know, they've got a starting center in Austin Koecki who started a year ago at Oklahoma State, but if he gets hurt, next in line is Ryan Corey, and I think he made strides as a snapper. There were some certainly issues early on in camp with getting the ball back to the quarterback in the right spot, but I think they're probably deeper at guard than they are at tackle. So it depends on the spot, but it's fascinating to see all this unfold because they've said for a long time how much they want to put back on the shoulders of the offensive line, which they've been saying for a while. If you can't do that, could be challenging.
Lastly, before we get into some of the latest over at Badger Connect, I'm speaking for myself here. I don't know how other Badgers fans feel, but I have a bit of scar tissue from last season because I got all hot and bothered. We talked about it. The group of Darian Dupree, Dylan Jones, Cade Yakimelli. It's funny because we didn't even talk about Gideon Atuka before the year, who may have been the best fit. And then, of course, he, unfortunately gets hurt. I was all revved up and ready to go. And then the running game wasn't any good. So many people now are really excited about Abu Sama. Is my past experience from last season maybe preventing me from being as excited about Abu Sama as I should be?
You're allowed to say that about everything. Question everything, Grant, if the results haven't been there. I will say everything was bad last season offensively. They couldn't pass the ball. They had 4 quarterbacks throw at least 10 passes in a season for the first time since, was it 1956? That one is just seared into my mind. All the things that could go wrong did. Having said that, they brought Abu Sama in because he has been battle tested in a Power 4 conference. He's got experience, and they needed someone that they believe could hold up over time. We'll see if that happens, but I like what he showed in camp. And it got to the point where when they had this spring scrimmage on Sunday, it was almost 100 plays between the first, second, and third team. Luke said this after practice. With Abu, they know what they had basically, and they didn't want to risk anything. If you're at that point, then you're at about the highest level that you can be as the staff views it. So he's the number one, it would appear. And the running backs coach, Jaden Everett, said they'd like to have a bell cow. So if there's going to be the number one, you'd think it would be him, but this isn't a 90% one dude and then everybody else just gets the scraps. I think they're going to need multiple guys. Darian Dupree is much different physically. He's 215 pounds. He's much bigger than he's been, but I think he's still got some of that spin move and pass catching ability. What's interesting is Brian Jackson and Nate Palmer, 2 other transfers, were dinged up at different stages, but it felt like they were close to working their way back. I think Brian Jackson at 240 pounds gives him something different. I can see him using 3 running backs in a game, but I don't know what the carry distribution is going to look like. They're just going to need multiple backs to get through a season, as we've seen.
And with Abu,
this is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Final segment here. Went a little long earlier in the hour, taking some calls, listening in on Brian Gutekunst. So I had to cut the last minute or so with Jesse. He's got a Badger Bite out today, Badger Connect. You can watch that video, or you can see the snippets on his Twitter if you don't subscribe, and you should. They mic'd up Kenny Guyton on the sideline, Badgers quarterbacks coach. Had a little sit down in the office, didn't interview his style of coaching quarterbacks. And I kind of forgot that Kenny Guyton played quarterback at Ohio State. And I forgot that because up until, what was it, last year? He hasn't been a quarterbacks coach. He's coached wide receivers. So he's taken this long roundabout way to being a quarterbacks coach that I don't think a lot of people would take that path. So it's interesting. Go watch that Badger Bite and subscribe to Jesse's work at Badger Connect. And if you're pressed for cash, you can't spare an extra subscription right now. I feel you. Subscribe to a lot of stuff. The camp is free. So listen to Jesse on the camp with Zach. It's the best Badger coverage you're going to get. It's free thanks to Brennan's Market here on the west side of town. So if you can't afford a subscription to Badger Connect, that's fine. You can watch the Badger Bites on his Twitter at Jesse Temple, and you can listen to the camp as well. And they're cranking out content, as I said, day after day. We'll pick this up tomorrow. We'll react to another Brewers game. Maybe Pat Murphy will bench someone else tonight. Who knows? That was a great windfall for content today on this show and on Bill's earlier. Made for some good conversation. So thank you. Podcast will go up in just a couple of minutes. Be posted 10 or 15 minutes. Hit your feed so you can find what you missed wherever you get your podcasts and on the Wisco Sports Zone app. Have a great night. I'll talk to you tomorrow.